scan statistics, Huntington's disease is a genetic disorder that affects about 30 people in the United States, and at least 15,000 others have a 50% risk of developing it at some point. This disorder drastically changes one's life. It affects the way how they eat, how their body moves, how they walk. It affects their expression on their faces and slowly takes away their ability. This disease doesn't only affect the person carrying it, but also the people around it. Like this disease, there are many others such as cancer and diabetes, and it is extremely important for people to get a genetic test. This disease is a genetic disorder, which means that it's transferred from parent to son, or just genetically transferred by relatives and others. And today I'm going to talk about why it's important to get a genetic test and its benefits and how the process is and the cost of it. So some of the benefits of getting a genetic testing is knowing what is in your body and what you could potentially develop in the future, such as cancer. If your family has a history of cancer, there's higher probability of you getting it, and being prepared for it, it will help you have money, save money, just be mentally prepared just in case you potentially have develop it, and just in general having it. And what is the process of getting a genetic test? Well, the first step is to go to your physician and ask. He will assess your family history and tell you specifically which type of genetic testing you need. So some people might need a bigger one depending if they have the potential risk of developing Huntington's disease. They would have to take a chromosome disease. So the genetic testings are performed on a simple blood test, hair, skin, aromatic fluid. That's fluid that comes in the fetus if you're pregnancy. You're trying to take a genetic test for your baby to see if anything is wrong with them, or if they have a potential harm in them, cells. And they basically take your cells and they send it to a laboratory where technicians look for a specific change in chromosomes, DNA, or protein depending on the specific disorder. And there are three types of testing. One is the gene testing, which basically they just take a strand of DNA or RNA and they test it to see if there's any small change in diabetes. That would be the most common one. So they check if you have it or if you don't. And there's also the chromosome test, which is where they take a whole chromosome and they check the whole DNA process inside the chromosome. And there's a biochemical test, which is proteins levels and enzymes activities are tested. And there's many reasons why you take a genetic testing. One is for diagnosing, and that means that you have symptoms of a certain disease. It's highly important for you to take that test specifically. And there's the predicting test, which shows how many, if you have a high chance of getting the disease, and before the symptoms appeared, and tells you basically if any of your family members or the people that your children have probability of getting it. And there's the prenatal testing, which then is when you're pregnant, it determines if your child carries a genetic disorder or a disorder that you may have passed on. And now I'm going to talk about the cost. And the cost would be like, if you have insurance, most of the insurance would cover the cost of like you getting a genetic disorder. But if you don't, it would be like from under $100 to $2,000 depending on the complexity of the test. So if your family history has more like a potential of developing a higher disorder, it would be more costly for you because you would want to get tested like for much better, like to see like you had it. Like if you have Huntington's disease, if you wouldn't want to like just take a regular sort of, because maybe they won't see it inside that small scale. So in conclusion, it is important to take a genetic test. Knowing if you are or not at risk of getting a genetic disorder can drastically change your life, but let it do it in a good way by preparing yourself and those around you, and just be prepared for like different sickness.
So, Tim, what did you think?
I thought her structure was good. Seemed easy to follow, but at first I was kind of confused if she was talking about Huntington's disease or genetic testing at first, and then it was made more clear. Also, I think her voice needs to be more a little louder and more clear. Sometimes it could be a little difficult to hear. Overall, the speech was good.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the vocal thing before. You've got one of those personalities. You're just kind of quiet. You've got a quiet voice and a quiet way about you. Maybe a little bit more assertiveness, but I thought you did a pretty good job, except right at the end, I thought you kind of faded out during your conclusion. So I was, pretty happy with what you were doing most of the time, and then at the end, it just seemed like you lost steam while you were speaking. I thought that you had pretty good audience contact as well. So on the delivery things, solid, not spectacular, but solid, and I think that there's plenty of room to improve. On the content issues, I think that you've got an interesting subject. You've introduced it pretty clearly. We know where you're headed with it. I think what the problem is, it ends up sounding very much like an informative speech. What is it? You're trying to convince us that we need to get a genetic test. Okay, if I know that I'm already predisposed to this, why is getting the test important? Will I start treating my illness earlier? Will I prevent premature death? Are there problems that I would be able to eliminate because I knew ahead of time? That would give me a reason for testing. Otherwise, if I know I come from a family that's full of cancer and I get this test and go, well, you're likely to get cancer. Well, there's a cheerful thought. Now what? Now I know bad news is coming and I've got it for the rest of my life. Someday I'm going to die from this horrible disease that my family likes to get. You need to do something that tells us why knowing is important. What you spend all your time on is talking about how these tests work and what the different tests are, but you need to give us a reason to take those tests. When you mentioned the cost issue, I said, okay, so you're kind of trying to diminish what the consequence of this is, and I understand that anywhere from $100 to $2,000. It doesn't sound like it's that big an investment. Maybe $2,000 is a lot for some kinds of tests, but what am I going to get for my $2,000? What is this knowledge going to help me with? That's the thing that I think is missing. I might decide, for instance, that it would be too dangerous for me to have children because I would pass on some genetic disorder that would limit those children's lives in some way or leave them in some kind of position where they would be at a disadvantage. Or maybe it would be planning for the long run when it comes to financial issues. You need to anticipate that toward the end of your life you're going to have additional financial obligations that you have to worry about. I think those are the kinds of things that you need to give us a little bit more of so that we're motivated here. As it is, I think we're excuse me, informed, but not necessarily motivated. All right, let me stop there.